This is John for Global Women's Sports Radio. Today, I have the pleasure of being on the beat with the CEO of a great football league, Odessa Jenkins. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, John?
I am good. Tell us a little bit about the Women's National Football League Conference.
The WNFC, the Women's National Football Conference, is a pretty cool organization. We kicked off in the 2019 season, started the business in 2018, and really the goal is to be in a progressive commercial organization that is the premier destination for professional women's tackle football.
Now, you know I love women's sports. I write for Global Women's Sports. I follow women's sports. Women's sports has a big challenge. How did you decide what made you want to start a football league?
Yeah, I played for 10 seasons all over in different leagues. I played for the U.S. national team, and really, I love football. It was my first love, my first sport. I went on and played college basketball at Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo. And when I was done, I went looking back for football, and it was always challenging to me that I couldn't or didn't play football through high school and college. And so it's something I've always wanted for other women and other players who I played with coming up while I was a player, even on the U.S. national team, were sort of always looking to me because I was an entrepreneur and a business leader to take the game to the next level. Like, hey, OJ, when we taking this thing pro, and when are you going to really get on the business end? So it seemed like it was going to always be destiny, but I think the defining factor was I was lucky enough to participate in the Bill Walsh diversity internship in the NFL, and shout out to Scott Pioli and all of the folks at the time at the Atlanta Falcons. And Sam Rappaport, who ensured that happened. But anyway, that happened, and I spent time in the NFL, and for a lot of women at that time in 2017, that was the pinnacle. If you were going to be at the pinnacle in football as a woman, that's what you were going to do. You're going to go be in the NFL. And me being in the NFL, but still playing and coaching, really pointed me towards my goal and my destiny, which was to give that kind of opportunity to women. I wanted to take a shot at women having the same treatment, feelings, professionalism, coaching that the men feel. And I wanted to feel that. And I was coming to the end of my playing career, so I couldn't be selfish. And the best way for me to do it was to give it to the women who were going to be playing after me. So that's when we started the WNFC, and our goal was to reach a new pinnacle in the sport.
Now, I'm not looking to bash other leagues. Every league, there's other leagues out there. But what separates you? What makes the WNFC different than all the other leagues?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that separates us is our clear target towards professionalism, the quality of play, the quality of our branding, the quality of our marketing, the fact that we do lead the market in terms of brand sponsorship. We're kind of writing the book on how to commercialize the sport. The fact that we're creating brands out of our athletes and teams and building team value and building equity in our league. I think those are the things that really separate us from like the business standpoint, but from a fan standpoint, nothing looks like WNFC football. When you click a link and it's WNFC, it looks like the real thing. It feels like the real thing. It's exciting. It's pristine. It's beautiful. It looks pro every time you click a link and every time you look at the sport. And I think that's what differentiates us. And that's really what's going to keep us on top.
Now, I know you've only been around, as you said, a few years, but what have been the highlights? What have been the big milestones in the league's history?
Yeah, I think the biggest milestone initially was the deal with Adidas and Riddell. I think being the first time that one of the big three brands, on the planet had decided to take an interest in a partnership with women's tackle football, and Adidas doing that was huge. I think it was huge for the sport. I think the next thing was absolutely our deal with Vier Sports and having each one of our games live streamed in 100+ countries, where you know where to go find women's football now. You click one link, you turn on your TV, you open your phone, and you can literally find women's football. I think that differentiates us not just as a league in women's football, but as a women's sports entity, where you can go watch each of our matchups in one place, and it's beautiful streaming. I think the other thing that's huge for us is our national championship game this year, being on the 50th anniversary of Title IX, and being hosted at the Star in Frisco at the Dallas Cowboys practice facility, and one of the most pristine indoor facilities on the planet, and having that be the first time that it's ever hosted a women's football event, I think is a huge milestone for us as a business. We've got multiple grants and funding. I think another milestone for us is we're kicking off our first round of capital raise, and that's unique for a women's football entity. And then our board, the fact that I don't know how we got this amazing board of advisors that we did, but from the NFL to Meta, Facebook, to Charles Schwab, some power players who could literally move any company have decided to invest their time into growing a women's tackle football entity, and I still can't believe it. So those I think are some of the milestones.
Now, you mentioned sponsorship. You mentioned a great board you have. I know that's a challenge for a lot of, not only just women's football leagues, but sports that are trying to, like wrestling leagues, softball leagues. How are you able to differentiate yourself? How are you able to grab those sponsors and bring in these important people?
I think the one thing that we have is cohesion throughout the entity. So our teams, our 17 teams are all bought in to our strategic plan. Our athletes who play in the WNFC are the top athletes. So when you look at a star player in the WNFC, you see a top football player. You don't think anything else. And I think that cohesion and that level of play combined, so at the business level, everyone moving in one direction, and at the sort of product level, it looking like high quality football, really has differentiated us. So when we go talk to a brand, or when we talk to a potential board member, and they see that not only do we have a plan, but we've executed it, we don't say things that we're not going to do. We make a plan, we go achieve the plan. And so people look back and say, oh, well, the WNFC said that they were going to do this, and they did it. And so I think we've gained a reputation of being a league that goes out and tries things and actually gets it done. We're not perfect, but we are high quality. And I think from a business standpoint, we take chances, and a lot of those chances is turned into good things. So people like that. People like an underdog that actually wins.
Well, speaking of plans, what are your plans for the future? What's the next step? What are short-term, long-term goals?
Yeah, the long-term goal is for women who play professional tackle football to make a living wage doing so, and to have the ability to make astronomical living with their brand. That really is it. Our goal is to revolutionize sports and make contact women's professional athletes a top brand. I'd love to see a WNFC player as one of the top 10 earners in sports someday. So long term, that's what we're building. We're building professional brands out of our athletes and coaches. In the short term, I think from a business standpoint, we're working to get the business funded so that at the league level, we can really devise an entity that can support our teams. Right now, structurally, the league is pouring all of our resources and all our revenue into the teams. So we're taking everything that we earn and get, and we're building the value of our 17 teams. Because if our 17 teams don't have value, then our league doesn't have value. Ultimately, we want our teams and our league to be trophy assets like other sports entities are, right? You see in WSL teams having significant value, WNBA teams having significant value. We want the same thing. In the short term, it's all about quality on the field. It's all about making strong business decisions and getting brand sponsors to buy in off the field. And it's all about building our fan base. So short term, we got to do that in order to get to the long-term stuff.
And does each team, is each team responsible for recruiting players? How does the process of building a team or adding players to a team, how does that work?
Yeah, each team is responsible for recruitment. We do have at the league level sort of how do you join a recruitment sort of funnel that we have at the league level, but each team is responsible for building their roster, supporting their roster and their staff. And it's wild how that's happened, the growth. You know, I told you I played for 10 years and I've been off the field for 2 years, and there is no shortage of women who want to play tackle football. I think the pipeline has also grown through the advent and the popularity of flag football, knowing that flag football is now a varsity sport at the NAIA level, and the fact that flag football is vying for a spot in the 2028 Olympics has introduced more women and girls to football in general. And when girls and women go looking for football, they ultimately go try to find a helmet as well. And that's been good for us. But we get a lot of cross athletes that are going from one sport to another. So multi-sport athletes, but ultimately the teams, the best way for them to recruit athletes is to have a great quality product. And that just brings them out of the woodworks.
You said you were retired for 2 years. So did you ever get the urge to just jump back in, whether it's a practice or anything, just to go out there and, do your thing on the field?
All the time. I still got it. I always tell my athletes are always side eye looking at me like, Coach, are you trying to get out here or what? Whenever I'm demonstrating the running backs and quarterbacks and that kind of thing, I love it when they let me get out there and demo. But ultimately, my favorite thing right now is watching the top athletes play in the WNFC. Like this weekend of games was so fun to watch. Our players are younger than they've ever been, and our game is as exciting as it's ever been. So while I still got some in the tank, I don't think I'm ever going to use it.
Well, I'm sure we would love to see it. If it does happen, we'll be watching for that.
Yeah, if I ever try to Michael Jordan come out of retirement, I'll let you know.
Hey, you never know. Listen, before I let you go, tell everybody where they can find out information about your league, where they can sign up, where they can get involved.
Yes. WNFCfootball.com is our website, and at WNFC on all of our socials. And you can catch all of our games live on Saturday afternoons and Saturday nights on Vire Network. And you can catch it at Vire Sports /WNFC, or just download Vire Network on any of your mobile apps, smart TVs, or catch us on the website.
I've watched some of the games but I'm a women's sports fan. I've seen women's football, so I kind of knew what to expect, but I was still blown away by the level of play. It sounds like an insult, but it's not. That's real football.
It is.
I don't care. I don't want to hear anybody say like, oh, they're just girls play. These women are, and I've seen other women playing. These women are up. They're high trained,
top level.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Elite athletes performing at a high level, and it's fantastic to watch. I love watching. I only have one complaint: Chicago.
I know. I think one of the things that we're doing is, I come from the startup world. And the one thing that I've learned in technology is to not expand too fast. And I would love to, I think we would love to put premier football, the top level of football in Chicago and New York and definitely in the Bay Area. Those are markets that we're talking to ownership groups in. We do have an announcement coming on expansion later in the year that I think people are going to be excited about, a great football market. But ultimately, the market in the city has to be ready to support women's football, because we're not like other leagues. We're just not going to drop a team somewhere and hope that it works. We're probably going to get smaller before we get bigger. We want to be a league that the number one thing is not the amount of teams we have, but it's the product that we put on the field.
No, I appreciate that. I just had to throw in my plug for Chicago. I'm based in Chicago. I guarantee you, you put a team in Chicago, I will be out there the first game. I'll be out there with wearing whatever shirt they are, and I'll be cheering for them.
I'm
But
gonna hold you to it. I'm gonna hold you to it.
oh,
We got some sponsors out there. Riddell Sports is out there, so we definitely, it is a market that we're really really interested in.
well, I guarantee you, it's on tape now. I mean, I will definitely be. You bring a team in Chicago or anywhere close to Chicago, and I will be there watching. And
Cool, cool.
until then, I will join everybody else watching you guys on the network and following you online because I love women's sports. Could I say that any more times? I
You
love.
could, and I appreciate that you do, and bring your friends with you. And listen, in the meantime, you check out Kansas City Glory. They're not too far away from you down there in Chicago. And until you get a team up there, you can root for the Glory.
They'll be my home team away from home.
There you go. There
But
you
still,
go.
that hey, I really very much appreciate your time. And when you do have that big announcement coming up, I'm not asking for any scoops right now. But when you
Right.
have that big announcement, hit me up and we'll definitely throw it up on our site and give you a little more coverage.
I absolutely will. In terms of this, how is this going to? Is this going to be a write up?
This will be a write up and the video will stay up on YouTube forever and ever and ever.
Nice. Okay. Well, cool. I really appreciate you, John. Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it. And really keep in touch. We don't want this to be a one-time thing. We want in on the long term to follow your league.
Yeah, I would love it. And I appreciate what you guys are doing over at Global Women's Sports. It's dope to see all the coverage and all the write-ups and really being I've seen the growth over time. And so the way y'all watching us, we're watching you. And
Awesome.
we really appreciate entities that love women's sports as much as we do.
Well, on that positive note, then let's say goodbye. I appreciate your time and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks, John.
Thank you very much.
Peace.